Okay.
Yes. Who's resigning? Greg Hoffman, right, is stepping down from the bar. And so I'm just kind of wanted to put this on just to say we are looking to find out who would be interested in serving. I know I've gotten 2 names so far, Doug Williams and Marva Isaacs. So I've been asking for resumes, and we'll see if we get any others.
And Richard Parsons was interested.
I'm sorry, Richard Carlson. Parsons, okay. So as soon as we get resumes, we'll get them out to everybody, and you can review them, and then, look to maybe in 2 weeks make an appointment.
Okay.
Anybody has any discussion on that?
We'll let everybody know and see what we come up with.
Yep.
Come up with some names. Great. Anything else to come before this lengthy finance agenda? So motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Who's on now?
I think it's John and,
John.
yeah.
Oh,
That's right.
I'm not?
I did a temporary.
Peggy and John.
How quickly they turn.
Right.
Can I have a motion? Since that one didn't
I'll move
pass?
it, yes.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Okay. I'm going to call to order City Development and Planning. First item on the agenda is calling for a public hearing on housing and community development needs. Mr. Purga.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Happy New Year, everyone. As part of our 2014 consolidated plan process that is attached to this request, we'll be holding 2 public hearings on housing and community development needs. The first one will be held January 16th at the Hamilton Hill Arts Center at 6 p.m. And we're proposing to hold the second one at the City Council meeting of January 27th.
Any questions? This is an annual thing. So if not, then I will entertain a motion to approve that. Okay. Ms. Perazzo, second by Ms. Porterfield. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Thank
you.
you.
Establishing zoning regulations for halfway houses. Mr. Salamone.
Good evening, everyone. The last meeting I was here discussing the halfway house legislation, and I brought up a bunch of clarifications as far as what's considered a halfway house. Pointed out that the edits had been made that the council had wanted as far as the city doing the notice rather than the applicant, that city council would get notice from the clerk's office when those notices went out, that the security plan would be on file with the police department but not approved by the police department for various security reasons, and the fact that we don't do those types of things, or the police department does not ordinarily approve safety plans, they keep them on file. And at the last meeting, we discussed the maximum number of residents of a halfway house, and it was indicated to me by members of the council that you were okay with the 15 residents because of the fact that it was limited in where a halfway house could be and what a halfway house was, that it was for people that are, incarcerated and released in some sort of program. It's not a drug rehab center. It's not, one of those various houses that people see in residential areas. So I have the regulations here, which those changes have been made to, but other than that, it's substantially the same as what we had presented to council the previous times that we were here. The public hearing was already held, and there has not been substantial changes except for the changes that council members have requested. It's similar enough that another public hearing is not necessary. It's the idea of a public hearing that you hear input and then make modifications based on what the council hears. So at this point, we'd be asking for this to actually get enacted so that we can have the zoning regulations as opposed to the moratorium that we keep that has expired pending this legislation.
Questions?
The amended legislation isn't in our packet. I assume we'll receive that before Monday night.
Yeah, I have a copy here. I can make sure that Chuck sends it out in the morning.
Thanks.
Like I said, the only changes have been requested.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. They reference security plans here, but they're really, in my mind, they're really more health and safety plans. And I didn't pull data, but I believe that we actually have more fire calls to these type of residents than actual police calls. And so it might be just to add where you file that with the police department, also file it with the fire department. So that would be a minor change in the proposed legislation, but I believe would cover actually what everybody's looking for.
Good idea.
I can do that.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve it, pending receipt of the document. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Recognizing the American-made movie event, Mr. Putman, do you want to talk about that for a minute?
All right, yes, thank you for the opportunity to talk with you tonight. I'd like to call up Jennifer Lawrence. She's with Northeast, the Youth Build program. So tonight you have a resolution in front of you to recognize and support the plan to have the American-made movie event, which is coming up on January 21st. It's a Tuesday. It's a film screening followed by a panel discussion that features the American-made movie documentary, which speaks to the importance of manufacturing and individual responsibilities that residents and consumers can have on a daily basis to impact their community on a positive way as far as the economy goes. And then the panel discussion that's going to follow is going to be hosted by Jack Arnicke, who's agreed to come in and do that for us. And panels include Mayor McCarthy and other folks, including local entrepreneurs and statewide officials. So we're excited about that. Proceeds for the event, the tickets to the event are $5, can be purchased through the box office over at Proctor's or online. And proceeds from the event are to benefit the Youth Build program, a one-time scholarship for a Youth Build participant who's planning on pursuing a manufacturing technology program at SCCC. So we encourage folks, there's only room for a little over 400 folks, tickets at the GE Theater, so be sure to get your tickets quick because I'm sure they will go quickly. But I just want to mention some of the other stakeholders. The city is hosting the event with other folks, including the Business Council of New York State, Vincent's Printing, the Chamber of Commerce, Downtown Schenectady Improvement Corporation, STS Steel, Tough Traveler, Saratoga Flag, National Letter Carriers Association, Gatherers Granola, and the Upper Union Street Bid. So we're excited to have a number of different organizations involved in this event. And we invited Jennifer in to talk a little bit about the Youth Build program.
Thank you. So Youth Build's been in Schenectady since 2006, and we've graduated nearly 200 young people, 18 to 24, who've completed their high school education with us. While completing high school education, they're also on a career track for energy, green construction, or healthcare. Our young people work with lots of local employers. Also just finished a rehab on Emmett Street for the city of Schenectady. And what's really great about this opportunity is we have a lot of young people who enter SCC after they graduate, and this scholarship will help a young person on their journey, especially that we focus on high-demand careers. Clean energy is a high-demand career, so we're really excited to have this opportunity for a graduate in this next graduating class, which will be June 2014. So thank you.
Great. Any questions or comments? Yes, Mr. Erikson.
So this will be on Tuesday, January 21st. Did you say what time?
It starts at 6:30 p.m. is the beginning of the film, and then the panel discussion will be at 8 p.m. We are offering an opportunity, some of the stakeholders are asking to have a table at the event, so we're encouraging folks to arrive early. At 6 o'clock there'll be tables, sponsors, local manufacturers such as Tough Traveler, Saratoga Flag, Gatherers Granola will have tables out sharing some of their manufacturing products that they have. So people can learn more about their companies and businesses.
Wonderful, thank you.
Sure.
Good. Anything else, Ms. Porterfield?
No, I just, I was going to move it, but
Okay.
it's the same day for our committee meeting because of the holiday. So we'll be a little bit, I'll be
And I
a little late
apologize
to
for
miss
that.
myself there.
That's right. Okay, but you'll move it?
I will.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, great.
Thank you.
See you there. Okay, proposed legislation for dealing with vaults within city rights of way. Mr. Polster.
This was brought up briefly I don't know, maybe a month or so ago. And I'm passing around now some proposed legislation. And right now, all we're actually doing is calling for a public hearing because this would be changed to the code. And you'll obviously, therefore, have time to review and consider comments. But this has come about as a result of the work being done on Lower State Street, where in preparing for everything that's got to be done down there for redoing the street. We have run into something like 21 vaults, and there were some significant questions about whether or not we should deal with the particular property owners on a one-on-one basis between the city and the property owner where there's a vault, or just put together a uniform policy that would function citywide, because there are vaults on Union Street, there are vaults on Crane, Broadway, and this is something that would just unify the procedure with respect to all property owners that have vaults within the city rights of way. And again, just calling for a public hearing at this point.
Questions? All right, I may entertain a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Okay. Second, Ms. Porterfield, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. There's nothing else to come before City Development and Planning. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Call to order government operations. We're going to go a little bit out of order, and we're going to bring the very and overworked Mr. Olson up to the table for the discussion on the OGS reorganization along with Mr.
Denise.
Thank you very much.
You get more
I
than one
appreciate,
thing on the votes.
you know, we get out of here a little early tonight.
Which legislation? I didn't get a copy. I didn't know whether you got an extra. No.
Happy New Year to everyone. I'd like to welcome John. I think this is our first official council meeting. Yes. Welcome aboard. Over the past couple of weeks, we've had the opportunity to be able to meet with each one of you individually. During the budget process, Councilman Perazzo had mentioned some concern associated with the organizational structure and the ability to have some continuity in the future with the organization of the Department of General Services. There are 15 agencies, as you well know, within that department, 247 full-time employees. With seasonal employees, we exceed 275 employees at times during the particular summer months. The functions that department perform are essential to health and safety of residents in the city. We're very proud of the fact that our employees work hard, do a good job. Most of the managers, and it's only a handful of people that work as non-union managers in the department, have got a significant amount of seniority. It's what enables them to be able to perform the work. They've been there for 37 or 38 years, the majority of them. They are getting close to a time when they are eligible to retire. I don't know if they would. I personally, and I think we all agree, the city would benefit if they would stick around for a while and we could continue to enjoy the institutional knowledge and the experience that they have. In addition, it would be nice when they do decide to leave, if there was some incentive within the organizational structure for individuals that come out of the CSCA bargaining unit, the underlying supervisors that are not non-union, supervisors that are entitled to overtime and benefits entitled to them through the CSCA bargaining unit agreement. It's essential, I think, that we have a system in place where these individuals have incentive to leave, to come and become non-union managers, so that we, again, can continue the continuity from the experience that those individuals perform. I think it's critically important, considering the jobs that these individuals perform, that we have the ability to promote from within. It's one thing we take advantage of is the fact that individuals start really as either workers in the system of the ASME union or CSCA unions and work their way up into non-union management positions. For example, Bill Mazzego was started on the back of a garbage truck 38 or 9 years ago. Tom Campoli, I think, came to drive a tractor trailer 37 years ago. These people have been with me since the beginning. They've been managers working for me. They do a phenomenal job, and it will be real nice to have them stick around. They're all approaching the ripe old age of 55. It's not that old. I, too, am about 55. I'll be 55 in a few months. We like what we do. We have been doing it for a long time. We'd like to stick around for a while. In addition, I don't have any assistant. I don't have any deputy or anyone that I can turn the reins over to at some point when I am ready to leave. We would like to create a situation where I have somebody that I can start training to be able to take over the many different aspects of managing these agencies. We have the ability to pay for these changes built within our budget. We promised you a description of that. We have that tonight. We passed that out. As well as the amendment that would be required to the non-union management benefit package, which was last amended by this body on October 1st of 2013. This would be amendment number 25, or paragraph number 25. The amendment was attached in your paperwork to the management benefit package to make this official and passed by City Council.
Questions? Mr. Erikson?
She raised her hand.
I'm sorry, you're out of my range of vision.
Okay. Mr. Olson, you've given us what it's going to be for 2014. You said there's no changes to the budget, but what about going forward? Because what you come up with goes out 10 steps for the non-union and then 7 steps for the Commission on General Services.
Mm-hmm.
So in the years going forward, have you projected that?
Yes.
What impact that would have on the budget?
Yes. Next year, 2015, there would be a difference of $17,000 increase. In 2016, it would be an additional $18,000. That is if the individuals that are in those management positions stay here, because it could actually be less. For example, if a manager that is on the pay scale, the 7th or 8th step, retired, the new one would probably start at the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, depending on what they were already making. So there would be savings when you replace individuals. Savings from a budgetary perspective, but you do lose the experience that that individual provided. So it's hard to determine exactly what the impact would be, but worst case scenario, it's 17.5 in 2015 and 18,000 in 2016.
And the percentage of these increases are what?
4%. The majority of the individuals that are included in this have employees that are in the CSCA bargaining unit that are making more than they are because they're entitled to overtime. We work a lot of hours in our positions as non-union managers. One of the reasons you took me out of order is because I've been here since 1 a.m. And so did a number of my non-union managers have been here over the past week or two, an incredible number of hours. We have good, competent people that work for us that are in the CSCA bargaining unit that are entitled to some benefits that we may not be entitled to, but it is important that our oversight is there to control expense, to provide the efficiencies, the economies that are created for individuals that are there clearly to do that. That's our job. So, again, it was last night an ice storm, it's snow removal. This time of the year you have some issues. We had water lateral issue in the stockade that was causing fits. It seems to go from one area to another, to another, to another. There's really no slowing down or no stopping the change. I personally enjoy that. That's what I enjoy most about this position, is the fact you're doing something different every day, sometimes 5 or 6 different things per day.
Mr. Erikson, you have a question?
On the page here, it has a list of 5 positions: commissioner, deputy commissioner, superintendent of water, street department. Is that all your direct reports? Does that include everybody? Or
No, I have other individuals: the city engineer, the director of water wastewater, and the building inspector. Those individuals I would not include in this because they are licensed professionals, and you should have the freedom to be able to set their wage in the future at whatever you feel is necessary to draw the appropriately qualified and experienced individual into those jobs. If those are jobs that you cannot do without, you have to have them by ordinance. You have the building inspector, you have to have a city engineer, and you need a licensed director of water and wastewater. So I don't think it would be appropriate to include those in the step process, but to provide the council with mobility in making those appointments as they come available.
When were you looking to implement this? Was it
February 1st.
February 1st? So are we looking to pass this out tonight, or are we going to...
I think we can...
think about it.
Hopefully
some
go
more.
another cycle, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking,
So
just
that
give-
we can read, digest.
Yeah, a lot to think about.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know Mr. Olson is available and Mr. Howard are available for one-on-ones if you already haven't had one, as well as answering any additional questions. Ms. Kay?
Overall, I have to say, I mean, I was impressed with what they've done here, and I think it does recognize some of the people who need to be recognized. I guess my question is a little bit of a bigger one, and maybe I could address this to Ms. DeGenova or the mayor, and that is in terms of when looking at the bigger picture with all the city employees, how does this fit in? Is there any, does this spread out? Is there a way to make this comparable to other units as well, or do we need to be thinking about that? Or...
I mean, to be honest with you, I do not have the detail that you have in front of you, so.
Okay. Is
I
that
think that
something we
looking at just one bureau and not looking citywide, certainly that's a good question that others should speak to more, but I have not been involved in.
I mean, so maybe this is something, if you get the information, you could also, come back with some suggestions next week too, or 2 weeks rather.
And we'll put this right on the agenda for 2 weeks. Okay. Other questions right now?
Just note that we're not looking at February 1st, which is a Friday. We'll look at whatever Monday is, because Kathy potentially yelled at me. Do another.
Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Howard, you can stay where you are.
Yep.
Garage Court Facilities Agreement for 2013-14.
Because we received a letter basically in the beginning of the year, and there were some questions regarding the 2013-14 court facilities agreement, and there was just a couple issues that we are not issues, but questions that were arised because they were looking at entertaining the idea of adding a fourth judge. And that's where we kind of let it go. I think it's a good idea, obviously, to enter into the agreement with them. They've been nothing but courteous to us. And I think it would be a great idea to entertain having a fourth judge. It just, the impact on the council, if they would be holding night court, would be a concern for me, would also be a concern for security in the building, and also our cleaning staff, our maintenance staff in the building. The judges' chambers are dependent on the budget being passed from the state and the court as far as their consolidation into one room. If they did consolidate, we would be more than have ample space to adequately serve the fourth judge without a problem. So at this point in time, I'd probably I'd leave it at that, and if we could find out more information as if they were going to push for a night court, then we really need to understand more of the impact on how it affects council and also our operations.
I just have a question. Is city court right now and the police department, are they holding night court there right now?
They are not.
Okay, is there a reason that we couldn't use that courtroom?
That would be my preference. Right now, the administrative rules prohibit the court from functioning at night within a city, trying to negotiate with OCA. Again, we're under, I'm not sure, have they actually sued us? It's still a lawsuit.
I don't believe they have yet, but
They want,
Just to make everyone move a little quicker.
some of the court facilities, they were pushing that for a long time.
10, 15
It's kind of
years
gone
now.
on the back burner. People just didn't have money in the budget. Now, there's a letter that they had sent mid-year asking what our plans were for that. And I sent back the letter saying, well, the governor at that point had not signed the bill that had been passed by the legislature in Schenectady creating a 4th city court judge. So I told them that we couldn't determine what space would be there until we knew how many judges would be there. So that's just to put the whole thing on hold. 4th judge would have a big impact on us if we had to look at the standards that they dictate in terms of creating courtrooms. We do not have the space.
Would there be any chance of sharing courtroom space with the county in terms of family court and or?
Possibly, even though they're under the same criteria with the state's looking for them to upgrade the facilities. The county had looked at a number of years ago to do a new court facility, which would have incorporated city court into building a different location. That, I think it was a price tag like $45 or $50 million. It's what they wrapped up, so that has gone nowhere.
Other questions or comments? So we'll expect to hear more about this.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. The Civilian Police Review Board appointment, Mayor.
Housing Authority, one of the agencies in the legislation, they have forwarded to me, it was Richard Homenick, which I have forwarded to the council for your consideration.
Questions, comments on Mr. Homenick's?
I think that's a great appointment.
Yeah, I do too.
Is this a mayoral appointment in the council?
No, this is the Municipal Housing Authority appointment.
They nominate somebody, the way the legislation is worded, will nominate, I then have to submit it to the council for confirmation.
Okay.
So,
It's either, even though I have an appointment, the council has an appointment.
Right.
Right.
It's still, the council has to send it to me, and I send it back to you.
Right, so would you like us to send it to you this evening, unless anyone has any objectives?
Well, this one,
Not this one,
whenever you
correct.
have a name that you have to forward for
Okay.
at some point too.
Right.
And I have to make another appointment.
right, so just to update everybody on where we are with this. The only entity that doesn't have an appointment right now is the NAACP. I've reached out to the regional coordinator to see if I can work with her, just under her authority, to appoint a member here in Schenectady. So I'm working on that. All other appointments are filled now with once we vote on Mr. Homenick. The mayor has received the resignation of Mr. Mutabirin, so the mayor needs to make an appointment. We've currently received 5 resumes and are awaiting a 6th. When we get that 6th, Mr. Thorne is going to put them all in a packet and send them out to us. I'll ask for, we have 2 appointments to make, so I'll ask for your top 3 choices of the 6, and we'll make an appointment the next cycle, and then we should be completely up and running at this point. I've spoken to all of the different people. There may be some changes in appointments, but we will have a full police review board at that point. So the only thing I'm waiting to do is also talk to Ms. Richardson about the time of the meeting in the day, and reach out to people to see if that is a day and time that works for them, so we can make sure we have a quorum for the police review board on a monthly basis when there are cases that need to be reviewed. So we're going full force forward with that. But does anyone, I'm looking for someone to move.
I will move Richard.
Thank you.
And John.
John is.
Second.
Okay. Any questions about Mr. Homenick? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Welcome aboard, Mr. Homenick. Next, we have a review of Amending Chapter 144, which is to include a dog enumeration fee. Mr. Thorne.
Okay, there's been a public hearing, which was held last last year, rather. There was only one speaker, that was me.
In favor?
All speakers spoke in favor of the amendment. The legislation that will be drawn up in an ordinance form, I've got the bullet points here that I'm passing out. Essentially, it provides for the assessment fee of $15 to dog owners found to be by the dog enumerators or census takers to be assessed $15. It also will spell out that the dog enumerators are not defined as animal control officers, and owners that are found in violation by animal control officers independent of the enumeration will still be, will not be assessed the enumeration fee, but subject to the fines and penalties that are already in the code. The effective date will be March 1st.
Questions, comments? Mr. Erikson?
Just a question about the individuals that will be taking the census takers. So they will be city employees?
They'll be temporary city employees, and they'll undergo training with the police department.
Okay, and then will they be working part of the cycle time, or will they be working the whole year, part of the year, season?
Part of the year, weather-related, essentially probably May to September, May to October.
Okay. And at the end of that, being temporary employees, will they be laid off, or is it that's the end of their term? How does that work?
Yeah, they'll be laid off.
So they'll get unemployment while they're not working unless they find other employment? Or
I don't know that.
okay. Like, that would affect the cost. My thought is that if they're seasonal, and every year they get hired in the spring and laid off in the fall, the city would then be paying employment to fund, until they were rehired or they found other employment, right? If it's whereas if they had a schedule of, hey, they only work 8 months a year, from a personnel perspective, I don't understand what the cost would be in terms of having a X number of employees laid off every year. So I think that would be something that is
Maybe that could be contractual.
So,
right.
I mean, I don't know that our seasonal park employees and things, folks of that nature are collecting unemployment.
Yeah, I don't know, so I think I'd like to know before we vote on it.
Yeah, good point.
Other questions?
If we can clarify that point before Monday, I'd be happy to move it, because I know Mr. Thorne worked very diligently on this, so.
I believe, Ms. Bradley,
Yes, I'm
I
sorry.
believe it has something to do with hours, I think, to qualify for unemployment, I believe, so something like that.
Does your wife qualify?
No.
Then I would say that this position wouldn't either, because they're not going to exceed the hours that the crossing guards put in the calendar year.
How many hours?
I'm sorry, Ms. Porter.
How many hours a week is that crossing guards work?
They work 10.
Right, so that's, for me, it's not that they're not going to exceed them in a calendar year, but they would be exceeding, they would probably be working a 30 or 40-hour week, correct? So I think we need clarification for Ms.
They'll be working a 20-hour week.
just to make sure we know.
Yeah, I think it's good just to get it all down so we know exactly what they're going to work and how that applies to the personnel structure and cost.
Other questions or comments? Okay, so we will look for some clarification, but for now, I suppose, pending that, I need a motion.
I moved it.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Next is just a discussion, it's not even really a discussion, I mean, if anybody has anything they want to discuss about the pilot report that came from Metroplex, that was a really good report. I think there's a lot of misperception about people getting a free ride in the city and paying their taxes, and maybe not grasping the fact that, it's a key component to economic development, and that we are going in a forward motion, and we're taking derelict property, and we're actually collecting taxes on it to the tune of quite a pretty penny. And I thought it was a great report and very comprehensive, and I just wanted to see it up on our website so that people could access the information. So that's the only reason why I'm bringing it to the table, if anybody has any questions or comments, but it's really just a request of IT, unless
Mr. Gillen is here.
add anything. Okay. Mr. Erikson?
No, I think it was great. It was good to see, how many properties, and there wasn't a list saying, oh, I remember that. I remember what it used to be, right? And they're empty lots, or they're dilapidated buildings, and now they're generating, and you can see the growth, how that will expand. So I think it's great. It was really, I think, timely and good information to pass along to the public, because I think it clears up a lot of questions.
And it's basically,
perhaps this will stop some of the smack talk if there's different, I can't guarantee that.
And so, anyway, and this just makes it a little more public that it'll be there.
Yep.
Gives the chance to talk about it during council business and raise awareness that the report will be on our website for people to access.
Yep, I think that's great.
Okay, and on to a discussion about reinstating, can actually remove the assistant fire chief because we welcome Mr. Senecal and we're very excited for him. Appointed, as you all know, just a couple of days ago. And, but I do want to open the discussion, as the council said they would, after the first of the year about reinstating the deputy fire chief's position and how we might do that. As everyone knows, neither Ms. Brucker nor I supported removing the deputy fire chief's position. In quick numbers, I can tell you that it equates to about $4 a year per $100,000 assessed home. And I feel that with the chief retiring, we cannot afford to weaken the infrastructure of our fire department. So as you all promised, you would discuss this after the first of the year and bring it into the table for discussion.
Well, one of the reasons that we didn't, it wasn't in the budget this year, was because we didn't have the money to support that particular position. So I just, want to be clear that I know that we need a deputy fire chief, and our concern was that, where do we have the money in the budget? And so that's still the same concern. Where do we have the money in the budget to fund this? And I understand what you said, about the assessment. So, we have to be able to look at the budget and see that, this is a position that we could fund, not just for 1 year, but going forward. So that's, really realistically how we have to look at it, so. And we said we would look at it starting at the beginning of the year, and it is the beginning of the year, very early in the beginning of the year. So, I think those discussions are necessary, but we definitely have to look at how it looks in the budget and how we could, be able to fund the position.
Mr. Iggy.
On the lines of what Ms. Porterfield brought up, I would like to see us wait until March or so when we get the actual figures for 13 on the health care, because that was discussed pretty thoroughly also. When we have those figures, and if they come in, and if there is some extra money in the 14 budget, which I believe there may be, then we can encumber those funds maybe and be able to pay for this position, but I'd like to see what these figures are. Would it be sometime in March, Ms. DiGenova?
To know the result of 2013?
Yeah.
It would be, but I don't know that, yes, it would be that you could know where you
Because we wanted to use that for a guideline to see where we were with 14, that's what we were discussing.
Yeah, but depending upon the type of expense you're looking at 2014, you
Right.
have to keep in mind changes in whatever marketplace you're looking at.
But that was the first year, 13, when we were basically self-insured, correct? So we didn't have a baseline, that was the argument then. We didn't have a baseline to go by.
Well, I think our discussions revolved around the fact that not all of our policies were all self-insured, as well as the fact that you need to have an appropriate leeway in your budget to support whatever costs might come your way when you're self-insured. If you look at 1 year and compare it to the other, you don't necessarily know that all the things that happened in this year 1 are going to replicate what's going to happen in year 2. Year 2, you could have less claims, you could have more claims, so there is some type of consistency.
But we do have a catastrophic
We do.
policy to cover that, right? If there's something catastrophic with an employee, correct?
Right, but your changes don't necessarily mean just one catastrophic or two. It could be a smattering, which doesn't allow you to fit into your policy. But the short answer is yes, we will know in March where we are.
Because historically, looking at the figures, even when we weren't self-insured, we had a pretty good pad in that line. So that's what I would like to look at anyhow before I'm willing to discuss this further.
Any other comments?
Good.
Yes, please.
And if you have any questions, maybe I could answer them as well.
And I thank you for the opportunity and the fact that this is being revisited. I felt that I made a pretty strong case for keeping this position in the budget last year, but I understand the practical issues that council has to deal with as well. But in the fire department, we also have to deal with practical issues. A training officer is mandated by state law. We cannot ignore that. And the hazmat deputy chief position is entirely funded by money from the county, which will increase this year, if necessary, to another $200,000. The deputy chief who's currently in charge of training in EMS is responsible for the fees that we receive from EMS, which actually exceeded our budgeted revenues this year. And we're working, I know there's been some discussion via email on re-examining those, and we have been looking at ways of increasing those revenues. Those discussions were going on in 2013, but they are continuing. So if you look at it that way, both positions are self-sustaining, and they are both essential positions to our department. This year, we will have a deputy chief retiring, 2 captains retiring, a lieutenant retiring, 3 firefighters retiring, and I will be retiring. That's a great deal of transition, and many officers' positions that are going to be changing next year. It's not a good time, in my opinion, to, God bless you, it's not a good time to alter the leadership of the department. I mean, there are going to be transitions, and nobody's indispensable. We recognize that. But we need to have some stability as well. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them to the best of my ability, but I implore you, please restore this position.
I have a question. Chief, with the retirements that you just mentioned, do you see a savings in those retirements?
There are some ways of saving money on the timing of the retirements and when the positions are filled. That it is possible to work with those things, and we've done that in the past.
Right, I know.
So we can do some things, save a little money here and there to help fund that position. But there isn't any fluff in our budget.
Right.
Our budget has been, if you remember back in 2011, we eliminated the assistant chief's position and an additional deputy chief's position that we don't have anymore. So the 2 gentlemen who are in those staff deputy positions right now have had to take on the additional work of the deputy chief that was eliminated, and I and they have had to take on the additional work of the assistant chief's position. And it's what we had to do. But as things progress, and we are doing very well, we have been in budget, as you know, every year for at least the past 10 years or 12 years. I think we can do this. And I don't think we'll be at a deficit at the end of 2014.
So Chief, is there anything that you can propose with the current budget in place as to how we might reinstate this position?
Well, it's difficult to say. We could take something because it's a matter of robbing from Peter to pay Paul. But I'm sure that we can re-examine some things, and timing, as Councilmember Brucker mentioned, timing can help fund those positions too.
So maybe we can have a conversation
before
you leave and and get something to propose to the council?
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Board of Appeal.
Chief, some time ago we discussed, or it was discussed, about doing some things that other fire departments do in terms of logos, et cetera, on the fire engines or on the, on the different trucks. Is that something that you would consider if it would bring in revenue, or is it something, how do you feel about it?
It has been done across, there's a market that's got a sponsorship on fire apparatus in one city out west. We had a very high-profile company give us a grant. The General Electric company gave us a grant for fire command cars and a hazmat vehicle in 2004, and we talked about putting the GE meatball on the on those vehicles, but the decision on their side was that they didn't want the GE logo on the scene of sometimes very tragic incidents, so we didn't do it. But they're, obviously they're great friends of ours and great supporters, and we still do have a contract with General Electric. Maybe they'd be willing to do something to help staff this position.
Yeah.
Be good if Union College would pay for engine 4.
There you go.
Yes. You can ask them.
Actually, did in looking at some of the figures that Mr. Winkler's working on a program, Engine 4 is actually busier than Engine 1, in part due to the calls at Union College. It's interesting.
My question would just be basic in terms of timing. Obviously, you'd like it filled as soon as possible, but, if we had to wait till March till we get more figures, is that?
I'm very willing to discuss any possibility along those lines. And as I said, we all have to deal with practicalities. You have to deal with them, and we have to deal with them. Ours are maybe sometimes a little more urgent, but we're all working towards the same goals.
Mr. Erikson.
I know some of the stuff that our guys do in terms of training, keep everybody safe, make sure everyone knows what they're doing in an emergency situation. Each of the towns, so you got Niskuna, you got Rotterdam, they all do training. I know they have those buildings where they have the fires and they go in. Is there any possibility of either saving money or generating revenue if we were to have our person who's kind of doing the coordination of training and hazmat and things to also take on the responsibility of coordinating for some of the towns in exchange for revenue, and they would kind of pay us to do that for them, and that way we'd have one guy doing it for multiple municipalities versus each municipality having one guy doing it?
Well, we actually do a great deal of cooperative training. Just that we received a grant for the bailout devices that are mandated, an unfunded mandate from the state of New York, and those are going into service, but we did cooperative training with Scotia Fire Department that we applied for the grant together with to accomplish that training. And we have region-wide hazardous material training going on all the time. Back after the events of September 11th, 2001, we realized across the country that our hazardous materials and weapons of mass destruction training and response capabilities were lacking. And here in the city of Schenectady, we really are leaders in terms of hazmat. They use our team as an example throughout the whole state on how to do things right. And we have training going on with Rensselaer County, Albany County, Saratoga County, and Schenectady County. And you don't hear a lot about it, but it's ongoing all the time. And some of those drills are funded by the federal government, and we get all that cost back.
Do those municipalities also expend money on personnel or any other services where I'm looking at, consolidation, so to speak, where we can take on that work? And they would give us
actually
money
do some of that cooperative training with EMS training.
Is there an opportunity for more, I guess, which would help pay for some of the stuff we're looking to do? I'm looking for ways we can get money to pay for the position. If we took on more work from towns, that would facilitate.
Another thing that I know you're aware of is our tactical medical training, which brought in some cash last year, but also brought in about 3 times as much in goods and equipment. And we expect to be doing more of that this year. So, all that helps. It also helps offset the cost of doing the training, because there's some overtime costs and personnel costs involved in that. One basic question, and I think about our personnel who are among the best in the whole country in terms of their firefighting capabilities. You wouldn't want to have a person drive $1 million piece of fire apparatus that belongs to the taxpayers without adequate training. Training is essential. And it goes on every single day, but it needs coordination, it needs supervision.
Well, I just also want to say that 2013 was really an active year, and we had a lot of really serious fires, and the last of which, on Moyston Street was just so tragic. Thankfully, no one died, but I thank you, and I thank the entire fire department, and I thank the mayor for getting that scene not only under control quickly, but also raising the houses that were there and creating a safe environment after a very tragic situation. So thank you to the whole department.
Thank you.
All that they do.
I'm sure that Mr. McCarthy didn't plan on being at a fire on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and the day after, nor did I, but that comes with the territory.
I'm sure those people didn't expect not to have Christmas either. So. But thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Is there any other business to come before government operations?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Call to order claims. Or a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.